Now that you've got the proper equipment and milk, you can start making feta. Begin by putting your heat on a low to medium setting so that the milk heats up gradually. I would recommend taking your milk out of the fridge about 30 minutes before you begin so the milk has a chance to warm up and doesn't get too shocked by the temperature change. In this video, I will be making cow feta and have purchased a higher fat milk, homogenized 3.25%, to get a better flavor and a higher yield. Next, you need to gradually heat up your milk until it gets to 93 degrees Fahrenheit or 33 degrees Celsius, and this should take about 5 to 10 minutes. Once your milk has reached the desired temperature, it is now ready to have the culture added. You can put in a pinch or an eighth of a teaspoon. The reason we add culture is to ripen the milk, which in turn gives the feta its flavor. Make sure to stir the culture in gently until it has fully dissolved and is evenly distributed. Next, we're going to add our calcium chloride. Calcium chloride is a salt solution used to restore calcium balance lost in the pasteurization process when the milk is rapidly heated and cooled. We're going to add a quarter of a teaspoon of calcium chloride to a quarter cup of non-chlorinated water. Then we're going to add it to our milk, stir, and cover for an hour while the culture and calcium chloride take effect. While you're waiting for the milk, it's a good idea to prepare the rennet in advance. Cut your tablet into 4 equal pieces along the perforated line and add a quarter tablet to a quarter cup of non-chlorinated water and stir. Keep in mind it won't fully dissolve. It's a good idea to prepare your rennet early so it has time to release its active ingredients. Rennet is an enzyme that essentially brings the milk solids together to form a massive curd, and it therefore separates out the liquid whey. Rennet is originally found in the lining of a calf's stomach, but the rennet we use is a vegetable rennet. As you're adding your liquid rennet, you want to make sure that you get all of the pieces of the rennet out, so dip it back into the milk and pour the leftover bits back in the milk. You want to give it a good stir and then cover, and after an hour you'll find that you have now made a curd mass. After an hour you'll find that your milk has turned into one solid mass. Congratulations, you've just made curd. The next step is to cut the curd. Essentially, we're cutting the curd so that we can release the whey and form an even stronger mass of curd. We want to cut the curd into a grid, and we want to do this over a period of 5 minutes. So for example, you want to make a cut, wait for 30 seconds, and then make another cut. And this will just help to release the whey from the curd mass. Remember to make sure that your knife cuts reach all the way to the bottom of the pot. Next, we're going to prepare our cheese mold. You want to make sure that you get a bowl that's big enough to catch all of the whey that's going to drip from the curd, and then line your cheese mold with cheesecloth. You can make your cheesecloth as thick as you like, and keep in mind that if you have a fairly weak curd, then you might want to double up the cheesecloth so it doesn't drip through. Now we're ready for stirring. We do this because we want to release the whey from the curd. You generally want to stir your curd for about 15 or 20 minutes. It really gives it a chance to have the whey released from the curd, and eventually you want it to just settle to the bottom of the pot, and you'll see that the yellow whey will rise to the top. As you can see, this is a fairly weak curd, and if you wanted to make it stronger, you can put it back on a low temperature and stir for about 5 minutes. And what it's going to do is help the curd mass just to become that much stronger. Now that your curd has settled to the bottom, it's ready to be scooped into the cheese mold. This is going to allow all of the excess whey to drain and essentially form your mass of feta. Depending on the type of milk you use, especially if you use goat's milk, you might find that you have excess curd that won't fit into the cheese mold. Just wait a few minutes until all of the whey drains from the mold and then put in the remaining cheese curd. Once the curd has been fully transferred into the mold, pile the cheesecloth on top of the cheese. The whey is now going to drain for the next 12 to 24 hours. I often like to put a bit of a weight on top of the cheese to help release the whey more quickly. It's also a good idea to flip the cheese within the first 2 hours a few times to evenly distribute the whey being released. After about 18 hours, your cheese should be quite firm. If you desire a really dry feta, then it would be a good idea to unwrap the cheese from the cheesecloth and lay it out on a cutting board for an extra few hours to dry out. Now that the cheese has reached its desired firmness, it's ready for cutting and salting. Sprinkle your cheese with coarse salt and store in the fridge for a few days in a loosely covered container. If you desire a strong feta, then follow the instructions on the recipe to make a brine. Congratulations, you've just made feta!